arguments against it.
Yeah.
It's mainly going to be like China. It's like internally these things. China is not developing the tech.
We say they are in the 180.
No, they're not going to weaponize it. Like OJ could.
This is a semifinals quality debate happening.
Well, apparently so.
Round 3 of St. Mark's.
I was just saying that this looks very similar to the room in which I beat loss of BB last year. Funny enough.
Can you put this in?
Yeah.
Put it in your section, please.
Russell, what's the
Jeremiah.
I told you. Oh, you did? Yeah, see.
Oh, yeah, I'll get if you record.
Yeah. You're recording now?
Hmm?
Yeah, why is the recording on?
Because then I don't have to do it later.
Yeah.
Wait,
Okay.
Wait,
is it
what
just
are our
the
past
latest?
2 hours like on the wiki?
Yeah, is it just the
Yeah,
latest?
mainly the death
Yeah.
fatigue.
It's on the wiki from
Okay.
last round or 2 rounds ago.
Did we win with them?
They're just a gang, bro. It's the whole Peninsula gang squad.
I'm gonna go use the restroom. So can you get the list? Yeah, I can probably still figure it out.
Everything?
Yeah.
Was Jacko after Green Hill?
Yes.
Okay.
So what's the story of this, like China just said?
It's like the plan creates U.S. strategic disadvantage because it makes us not able to develop develop super soldiers.
Oh, okay.
China is
Sure.
they're goated.
Can we say like deterrence collapse inevitable?
Like, why would it be inevitable?
Like INF. Trump winning the election.
Like, maybe. We could say
Our
that.
ICBMs are aging. I don't know.
Well then they'll say it's even more try to have for super soldiers.
You're right. Yeah, that's true.
Coach Brown, where are you working out of to get the efficiency cards?
I got the couple that Reese found, or that Reese
you-
cut, and now I'm just like looking at some other part, like
There's a
random
camp
areas.
file,
Yeah.
a China DA.
Sure.
Did you get it from there as well? And
Yeah.
did you figure out find the best card,
Yeah.
writing the section and then order the 1 AR card in the best
Yep,
order?
yep,
Thanks.
yep.
Huh?
Sounds
Yep.
good.
Did you still have a list?
Yep.
Cyber and antitrust DA, I'm guessing right. Oh, shoot. Yeah, I'll whip out. They're not gonna whip out.
Agreed.
Um,
What are we worried about?
I think the only thing I'm kinda worried about, but I didn't have any
What are
was
we
for man.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. What are we doing next week?
Why don't we go for, how does it compete?
Compete.
I it doesn't. Did we like a
Wait, to clarify, we want China is not revision.
China not
Yes.
So that they won't develop super soldiers.
Yeah.
Oh, we can get for Congress key against this.
Bro, this is what I don't understand. We say that the plan is courts, Congress, and USPTO.
Yeah. So Congress works. Well, Congress implements legislation, then implementation by courts and the USPTO and key.
Okay. So why is Congress key?
We have, like, it's everything. So you just have to write extensions of the 2AC cards.
It meets off rights requiring force of law.
Yeah, the card is about antitrust.
Do we have cards to the contrary? And this is not about antitrust, it's about legal personhood though.
Yeah. For legal person is the topic.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah. Oh wait, sorry, whatever. It's about a college topic. I have.
But do we have like rights are not force of law?
We can also just go for the baby.
Bro, no. Do you not remember what I said? Tellus thinks it's unreasonable. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's up the wall. Yeah.
What's up?
What's up? We're just making sure no one's broken anything.
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, I know.
We're doing our inspection.
Okay.
Teachers get mad when kids come in and like touch their walls and stuff.
Yeah, I get it.
Good luck.
Thanks, man. I take the call over those two any day.
Okay.
So true.
I don't know if they were like
Those who know. Those who know.
Yeah, man. What?
Here, can you open that? I'm protected IPR should not be considered. It should be considered. Should be interpreted in light of their goals. It doesn't have to be an absolute thing that requires the force of law.
It's not absolute. It doesn't read out absolute.
No, like I know. I'm just saying that we can read this card.
No, intellectual property being a goal does not call into question whether it's a force of law. A goal can also be a goal can also have the force of law.
No, the force of law means it has to have. Oh.
No, it's not
What is- what does
immediacy,
the force
it's not
of law
certainty.
mean?
It's like doctrine. It's as opposed to like optional or like I don't know, compelled. Like
What does that
force of
mean?
law is like mandatory. Yeah.
Yeah, but this says it doesn't have to be mandatory.
No. This is it's a goal, right? Like it doesn't. I don't even know. Force of law might be more specific.
Yeah, look, protection should not be considered not
Body
as
of
an
rules is
end, but
okay. Force of law means a body of rules that have been laid down determining rights and legal obligations.
yeah, I'm. And we're gonna read that. We can do property now.
Bro, Vadi says it's not absolute.
Yes. It like look, IP is not. It's a goal. It should not be considered.
Enforceable as law. Reading this, I don't understand why the counterpoint's not force of law. Oh, it's because it's advisory to the lower courts.
Yeah, it's a goal.
It's just
a goal.
It's the same as binding.
Yes.
So it
it-
justifies just as much.
Huh?
Justifies just as
I
much.
know, which is why I said debatability, but I'm also saying like,
We can say we can partially say
what's value?
What? Bro,
What's
Vadi I don't think is responsible.
says
Do we have a
it's-
certainty code?
Protect IPR should be considered as absolute. Should not be considered as
Absolute does
or
not mean-
goals, not as an end, but as one of the tools.
That does not mean it's certain or not certain,
They don't be enough certainty. They can be off of the force of the law.
which is mandate, which is like the same as certainty. It's like whether it's like advisory or whether it's their force.
We
to
don't
have.
have to achieve a goal. It's not absolute.
No. This says it is a.
No, yes, it says it's a goal, but not it's absolute. Like you don't have to.
No, that's not what absolute means.
Yes,
Absolute
it
means
is.
irrevocable.
And no, I don't think so. Like the irrevocable. Like the right. to
Yeah,
have
but
irrevocable.
it's not like put in place to begin with. The point is that they don't fee up that the plan is put in place. Just that they
Like, and then the context of this is that patents should not be considered.
Okay, if you want to go
as
for
an
it,
end.
we'll do that.
Recut the cards, bro. Like
What do you mean recut?
add this part. Protection.
Hold on. You can. What do you? I don't understand what you're at.
Look at this part. Protection. should
Aren't you
not-
reading this in the 2AC?
yeah. Yeah.
Posen?
Yeah.
AB.
What?
What is like the best answer to Posen? Like I've seen like the I've read it.
Jimmy cut a good note.
What did Jimmy cut?
Like a card that specifically says.
Oh yeah, I saw that. It was like Posen is wrong.
But I didn't actually read the end.
Pax.
I mean, I think that the best answer to Posen is just that, like, the only context in which it deflates military conflict is if we're all dead anyway. And it also is only
Also,
about
like Ukraine thumps Pax epidemic.
Yeah. Ukraine thumps, Israel Palestine thumps, and it's about a situation in which we don't go to war because we're all dead. It's also about conventional war, it's not about nuclear war. So even if it pacifies conventional conflicts, it doesn't stop nukes from being launched.
Because you don't need that many people watching you.
Yeah, you don't need that many people watching you. Yeah, it's talking about how like masses of people not being able to like invade other territories because they're all dead of the plague.
Plague. We're probably seeing some of the JDM cases. I'm not sure if we're going to see all of it.
I doubt we'll see all of it.
Not yet.
Peninsula.
Swoop.
Does the card that says that like China isn't working on gene babies?
Oh, we have.
We have that
I
card?
just need revisions.
Okay.
Okay. What did
Yeah, I just wanted to find it. I just wanted to know if we had any specific like.
Oh, here's
if
my
we
question.
needed
I have
specific
like one card.
China
that
not
says-
revisionist
like,
on this issue. Or
I have
whatever.
one card that says China's in
Okay.
line with the implementing ethical standards.
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
need
yeah.
cards that say like China's in.
I say the internal.
Zalewski says that China and the UK and Sweden might use it in ways we consider unethical.
Yeah.
Why is that not the scenario for the decide? That's enhancement. That's our whole point. They're going to do it inevitably, but they're not going to do it right. And
Yeah, but
The
there
ways
are
are not
ways
gonna be-
we don't know. That's what Zalewski said. He said
yeah,
China's not reliable. We don't know what they want. to
no,
do.
it says they use it in ways we could consider unethical.
Yeah, we'll talk about this around. I don't. I think that's one line in the card. I don't think it really matters that much. Then put in all of the inducements and treaties answers in for the advantage countercard.
And put them where?
The 1 AR extensions into your doc.
Are there one error extensions?
Jimbo did some stuff. And then put in the court stuff sits as well.
There are those, I assume so.
Yeah, not extensions, but you did. Sorry. You just need knowledge, bro.
Sure. You said get inducements and what else?
Just look all the 1 AR extensions under advantage countercard.
Or are answered uniquenesses from 2022
For what?
for for the debt decide to the inducements kind of plan?
Yeah, Jimmy just put that in.
It's RMAX card.
Jimmy put the stuff into his remarks.
What? Moral determinations for patent law. Oh, they fall within the jurisdiction of fiat. Sure. Whatever.
What? We've talked about these
Yeah,
already.
I forgot about these.
Yeah, but that I'm reading that first card, as a
This is just
links to
not,
net benefit.
this is not responsible.
No, I know, but I'm reading this as a links to net benefit argument
To what?
to reliance interests
Why is that linked to reliance interests?
because it's the court's literally going back on what they used to say. They're like just contradicting what they used to say, and that's going to destroy reliance interests as well. Like they
No.
explicitly said they will never take up the context of any jury.
Yeah, I don't see how remand does that linked to reliance interests.
Yeah, and especially with that card, so we're fine.
Does this I know we have this already. The add-on, the Beaverman like innovation add-on, Great Power Conflict.
Yeah. I think that goes neg.
That goes neg.
For the DA. If it
For the day, I think it goes neg. Okay.
their whole argument for no incentive benefit is like, it's like incremental. If you give it to the district courts first, it gives time for people to respond. It's not de novo.
Yeah. What does it sound like? What else?
So tell us.
Well, where do you all want to speak from?
We were planning from speaking here.
Okay.
I can also.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. Peninsula, maybe there?
Yeah.
Yes,
So I just sit here. Lovely.
Yeah, I saved what I saved.
Chris.
I was trying to look for some other cards, couldn't find them.
Thanks, Sam.
Where's KX's emails? Can't find the agency on the emails. I'll just look at it. Just looking at it.
We can get some Indian food after this.
Wait, I can ask my dad for some. I think he has a friend here. Or maybe.
India Palace is the place I've heard, and the place I'm planning.
Oh, okay. If you have a place already in
Yeah,
mind,
I
you
already
can do
have
that.
a
Okay. When you go to Emerald, one of the most banging Indian food you've ever eaten.
Good. Didn't we have some last year?
You didn't have it, but you went to the Mexican place instead.
Oh, that place was fire.
Yeah, I think the place we went to is the best Indian food I've ever had.
The United States federal government should significantly strengthen its protection of domestic intellectual property rights and patents by expanding patent-eligible subject matter to ethical human germline genome editing advantage. Its innovation companies are racing capitalize on the germline editing field. Patents lead their flow of investment in BCRS. 18 companies will expect CRISPR and risky experiments to achieve yields high rewards once Texas feasible were regulated, and some may start using it in ways we consider unethical. Companies try to remain ahead of competitors by racing the patent applications to human germline apply the tech before it's tested in the amount of time before Pandora's box is open. Trials are performed around the world, resulting in races dominating the market. Companies invested heavily without regard for who its patent dispute. The entire world looks to the U.S. to establish norms around germline editing. IP is uniquely key. Established 18 bears disease with the U.S. scheming field to be the first to patent risk, allowing the fruits of our labor to slip from our fingers by not being the first to invent. We lose the right to lead discussion and implement these ethically sound first. As conversations on IP frontiers already begun with monetary values at stake, it behooves us to maximize the share of IP to turn from the spring for developments. We've never been the first to discover the next game changer, but maximize our odds to assemble the U.S. falls behind into refunds and projects not eligible for failure to pursue all avenues of policy may cause the U.S. to lose its sense of the preeminent scientific power. The rest of the world may not wait for us to parse out the ethical question. China, the UK, and Sweden are taking the lead, and the U.S. is falling behind the tech road. We must examine the current provisions which hamper progress. The plan makes germline editing eligible for patent protection while building an ethical guardrails to the application process that encourages use for germline technology for treatment but discourages use for enhancement. And as you know, 20 avenue through which the government can control human gene editing is patent law. Patents are critical in biotech into research-based companies to determine Lisa the importance of patents to protect patent law to control the advancement of the germline editing, diminishing opportunity for commercial investment. Patent protection is inevitable. That would seek protection. One way to control this survival of the mortal usually destruction, reestablishment further line. The U.S. has lost over those foreign countries' arguments can be settled by observing the success of other countries, including patentability, mortal destruction law. Draw a line between treatment and enhancement, allow human editing for treatment and prevention of diseases to become eligible. The doctrine to reject applications for enhancement. Courts and legislatures restore the doctrine in a limited manner, but implement the oversight for impartial decision-making doctrine to provide the appeal system being altered to address subjective perspectives. Examine repeats have invited experts to submit a panel of amicus briefs. The group could be composed of those with extensive knowledge of particular tech, those with qualified in the field of ethics, and PTAP's decision would have the best educated AI room human workers of subject matter, including no patent claiming human workers of human editing not be eligible because your genome editing DNA mutation may be expressed by the treated germ cell of every other cell, altering the DNA in every future cell. The patent system is key to prevent regulatory mechanism that provides the best integrated ethical standards and innovation. Lastly, 19. Time to clarify patent evidence unified. Utilizing patent prosecution and ethical regulation is superior to every other regulation scheme because it is more timely, more flexible than the implication for misuse or hiding. Because of accessibility, limited oversight, it sacrifices the opportunity to analyze these issues during patent prosecution before go to the public. Input into stakeholder regulatory regime must be extensive. Response to the patent process prevents a unique opportunity for proactive ethical regulation to mitigate any issues associated with the game of catch-up. Existing infrastructure insufficient restricting access to funding not provided disincentive to the largest sports and comes from the industry. Current restrictions are irrelevant, and research not continues unheeded. FDA regulation occurs too late. Yet to be effective by the time tech to reach the FDA research has been conducted in ethical events already occur in the patent prosecution. Occurs the ideal point of the text lifecycle regulation early enough to mitigate the risk of unethical use, but late enough to allow for future application of technology being somewhat apparent. Attempting to implement a regulation preliminary stage to prove inefficient and future uses may not be apparent. The temporal relationship is unique to patent law. Resolves the issues inherent to retroactive system. Patent prosecution is superior to industry self-governance with such large effects. You could cloud the self-regulation judgment. Self-regulation is insufficient and standing alone, and the funding restrictions only affect the subsidy utilized for particular funding backwards. The patent law becomes a much larger number of technologies since patents are so commercially desirable. Incentive to subject themselves to ethical regulation regardless of the funding regulation. During the patent process, we individualize because this is beneficial to ethical regulation. The ethical issues in a very widely consideration occur soon after the development require external assessment and ethical risk made clear early in the process to make patent law incredibly advantageous for ethical regulatory mechanisms. The plan uses a blended approach that involves the courts, Congress, and USPTO to allow oversight for misinterpretation and incentivize innovation. Monty 19. Ideal approach would be such an provision allow the denial of ethical grounds while leaving specific examiner flexible to provide coupled with reliable and more utility doctrine which would allow judicial oversight to provide the flexible regulation. Congress could look at trips into suitable consideration of vain or juror limits the opportunity for political pushback. The lobbying groups establish change some disagreement requirement allowing ethical consideration for patent room misinterpret the coupling legislation with clear purpose oversight then increasing USPTO discretion is essential to assisting USPTO to tailor requirements more specific and informed by professional guidelines and public opinion. Agency policy can be amended quickly because of expertise and also detriment to general regulation allows to minimize the risk of unintended judicial intervention and judges are qualified to reform line trying to define parameters what is permissible. This is representation of public opinion doctrine controlled without risk of judicial oversight necessary to reanalyze it in the future of developments of ethical regulations become too severe and patents become too elusive. Innovation is disincentivized and the appropriate amount to incentive of production lies somewhere in the middle making virtual reevaluation necessary. Some tech may be barred by biological weapons and balancing out with tip in the scale of salvage disappropriation of borderline instances with involved in neuromaterial and medical benefits not outweigh morality subject to risk for to frameworks most likely to protection of Texas too many ethical applications warrant total denunciation. Effective valuation cannot be accomplished by the legislature or common law, but a blended approach that mimics an international approach to the combination of discretion and agency policy combined with moral research doctrine that strikes an appropriate balance between innovation and protecting. Scenario 1 is treatment. Diseases are rapidly emerging across spreading across the globe. Genome editing revolutionize global health responses, limiting the destruction of martyrs. 21. Connectivity across boundaries outbreaks are rapidly and spread global concerns diseases are endemic and outbreaks emerge suddenly and unexpectedly influence genome editing provides a new powerful new method to address that challenge and outbreak that occurs through delivered in or reservoirs and flies the risk. Plus rapid mutations pathogen could be engineered and enhanced for virulence and resistant to weapon. Final challenge occurring completing new novelation new seconds integral to efforts in stringing health security tech can rapidly identify threats that crucial for timely response to early research for treating infections, antibiotics, and vaccines, and influenza. An example of pathogens that is difficult to treat with, and the approach to genome editing to change the direction of research and new tools with persistent ease of use and increasing number of patents. CRISPR and genome editing to new cells quickly and efficiently, and CRISPR developed across all biological fields. CRISPR shrinks with security for pathogenic threats, and developing treatments. CRISPR for flexibility. CRISPR diagnosis made highly portable. Genome editing has a major advantage over traditional drugs to target genetic base of the disease, not require time and cost. CRISPR has potential for treating APR pathogen resistant disease not be targeted by CRISPR. Pandemics cause extinction bomb. 23 interaction with wildlife and pathogen jump from humans to zoonosis may be larger now than any earlier in history. More points of common global travel and urban density to create opportunity for pathogens earlier. Pathogens may not be killed as small personally than population. Deep historical evidence that consistent with high probability human extinction of pandemics threatens civilizational collapse and labor full causing disruptions to food security and insufficient cognitive fitness, failure to achieve engineering, temperatures rise rapidly, resulting in a double catastrophe. Harms compound the initial catastrophe. Oversight committees check the harms of discovery and allow the benefits of disease prevention. Rodriguez. 18. Embracing CRISPR disease correction to step in the right direction. Now benefits outweigh the risk because eradicating disease and benefits the human race. Fatal genetic disease only benefit CRISPR treatment is compelling and is ethically sound in the interest of the patient. While their transparency holds resources accountable to society. In addition to compelling rational evidentiary based justification of public process enforcement may be accomplished through an oversight committee similar to in vitro genome editing solves by broadly creating disease preventing mutations independently. Infertility causes extinction. Topic 18. Genome editing eradicate disease generally and editing has correct multifactorial disease preventive medicine because scientists induce mutation confirm prophylactic benefits as health intervention and promotes users some gene of treated infertility, targeting mutations, and some related linked to infertility, decline in reproduction, prompt human extinction. Broadly, gene editing makes humans extinction proof. The Economist 19. New genetic the technology that accelerates society may be overcome by disease, streaky mutation, growing understanding of genes over the door, incredible medical application, new genome sequence to fight cancer and other diseases, healthcare application, and station along the way, changing the nature of humans has harsh consequences for tremendous good avoid extinction events like synthetic pathogens, warming climate, and the nuclear war, expiration of our sun. Scenario 2 is enhancement. Genetic engineering is coming and causes extinction. Jones 9. Humans will acquire employees genetically designed payments in a few generations like engineer evolution rapidly change the bulk of humanity might appear primitive competitors resources might enhance and exterminate the last of humans become extinct is highly likely. Rate 24 enhancement innovation becomes species altering mostly generational effects in human adding will transform our species in the long run is enhancement is satisfied as humans as species accelerate or an extinction humanity must society impact enhancement out of our future robust ethical system prevents black risk otherwise extinction built in 18 human determined mistakenly before genetic awareness would precipitate the end of life as we know we don't know how to build ethical guardrails until we see the ruination we haven't extracted black hole we haven't been lucky barreling toward the next phase when it comes to CRISPR takes a handful of science fiction war guidelines create designer papers overflowing the little great balls increase the ability to set off clouds. The cause of the next generation of bioterrorism. We cause 16 genetic advice and more susceptible to disease and CRISPR recalculation. National security applications setting tech indiscretion was while publishing could be key at AAS could be more the accidental consequences of regular setting labs and embryos. Performing oversight labs and popped up no basis for science and dangerous labs create designer babies that causes extinction. Walsh 20 deliberate outbreak would be engineered by engineered pathogens spill fast cruel cause chaos go quicker than anything and if a countervention will reintroduce again and again wipes out the planet exit threat attack may not be difficult to advance the biotech rapidly that skill of funding the gene edit and engineered biotech threats to humanity like nothing else exists for the most available would be a bioweapon. I'm good.
Okay. Did you read everything you want to see?
Yes.
Cool. The plan, I heard, like, the tag on the card, it has the courts, Congress, and the USPTO work together.
Yeah, that's normal means.
Okay.
Well, so the Congress would, normal means is that Congress would pass the plan and then the courts and the USPTO would implement it. That evidence says that courts and PTO implementing it together with a flexible approach with Congress implementing it is key.
Okay, so just to be clear, like, the plan is, like, legislation.
Yeah, Congress.
normal
Normal
means.
means is that Congress passes the plan. The result is that the courts and the USPTO enforce it, and
Got it.
work with
I just want to talk about this Jones piece of evidence. Can you explain, like, the scenario for extinction?
Yeah, so when humans become enhanced, they become an entirely new species. That one species, and like Jones says, humans become quote divided into subspecies. When one species of humans see themselves as so superior to another one because of things like competition for resources and leadership over the globe, that species exterminates the current human being species.
Right, but, like, those humans survive. So how does
Yeah,
that cause
so
extinction?
Those aren't humans.
Yeah,
too.
those are not humans. So
Okay,
like
so
our impact is about extinction.
genetically designed babies who are more handsome, beautiful, athletic, and intellectually superior, those aren't humans.
Yeah, they see our human race as primitive and like completely inferior to their new species. That is, yes,
Okay,
more
so,
beautiful
like-
and better at everything.
Okay, so just to be clear, like, these, like, genetically enhanced humans, like, you do not consider them as the human.
We
They
should
are not. Like, we don't know how they feel, like, if they feel pleasure and pain the same way, so we should only care about our human race for the purposes of utilitarianism.
Okay, so if I'm smarter than you and more handsome than you, like, does
We're
that
still the
not
same
matter?
species. Like, these are entirely new species.
Like not Homo sapiens anymore.
What? Like, where does it say, like, you would create a new
Quote,
species?
humans would be divided into subspecies.
Okay, yeah, like, subspecies.
Yeah,
like,
those are
referring to,
new
like, smarter
species.
people. Okay,
Like,
sure.
not
the,
like new.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. The BCLRs BCLRS evidence, like the uniqueness claim, it's from 2018. What evidence do you have that says that right now that germline editing innovation is increasing?
Yeah, BCLRS is predictive. It will, I mean, if you introduce uniqueness claim, we can read newer cards, but like the purpose, I think it's pretty good for now. It says that trials are being performed around the world, companies are racing to dominate the market. All these are reasons why people are trying to develop germline technologies, but they're being denied in the application process.
Okay, the modeling warrant, is it just the Zalewski evidence?
Yeah.
Okay, the Zalewski evidence, like where does it talk about germline editing specifically?
Yeah, I mean, it's specifically about our IP norms around like gene editing. So it talks about if we fail to be the first to patent, we risk allowing the fruits from our labor to slip from our
Everywhere
Okay,
where
fingers.
so
it
like
says
there's like
TGE,
clearly instances of like other countries not like following onto all of our IP. Why does that not take
I mean,
place?
yeah, the point is that like they do follow on to germline technology. It's more
Right.
the ethical system is key, and that's what's modeled. Like
But-
if there's
okay,
a
so
similar
that-
like patent policy with the moral utility doctrine that you think has
Okay,
not
so
been
just to be
followed
clear,
onto.
the ethical system is modeled like
Yeah,
by
like the
countries, right?
ethics system that the plan does, which is implementing the moral utility doctrine into the application process.
Want to see what's there?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Order's gonna be Adolf and then Kiss.
Key subsets. E means throughout. That's WP. It limits from anything else lost from infinite specific copyright trademark or patents that no link to every topic journal. Next off, T. Courts IP protection are statutory. Chris Follow to 1. IP protection enforcement particularly related to statute country selection subject to interpretation judiciary enforcement application at discretionary enforcement agent. Even if IP framework includes laws that enable punitive sanctions, these may never be utilized by judiciary or custody officials. So limits around. They expand the topic to include court decisions from status quo protection, expanding funding for law enforcement agencies, skirting core topic distance, and exploiting the research burden. Next off, the Office of Law Revision Counsel should insert no source provision into the United States Code establishing that prima facie evidence that expands patent eligible subject matter to ethical human germline genome editing. The United States executive and judicial branches should enforce this policy. It solves without requiring increased protection of voice and reaffirms LRC's independent rule that boosts internal recipe that contains hyperpartisanship. Cross and Gluck 20. In codification, unless it make changes to substantive provisions that lawyers receive and distinguish from enacted titles, but these have not been enacted. Codifying law by Congress. Congress has not voted on these edits, has literally interest in doing so. The statute accounted by the public abuse from the Texas that was enacted. The bureaucracy shared affairs convention not part of the Congress institution and respect rules and limits the rationality auxiliary legislative institutions as produces a stronger democratism legislative branch bureaucracy members use as a share to share adulation to separate powers and removes a piece from partisan politics serves a conflict for resolution mechanism kind of which hyperpartisan provides optimism that Congress even during partisanship preserves some process as Congress has become contentious. It's hard to get the laws passed. OLRC may insert no source provision that do not exist in any enacted law that LLC creates out of collective a new term that more easily articulates the policy not ultra versus difficult because of fine evidence that many not pay attention. Extinction. Bergman 20. COVID called people to become more collective pilots of vigilance to protect peace and military war and WMT exposed interconnected global risks and global response. Parties that politics stand for effective response making it harder to tackle existential risk, climate change, and nuclear weapons. Next off, the United States federal government should propose protection of patents and ethical human germline and genome editing as amendment to TRIPS. So the United States should comply with the amendment prohibit strengthening protection of intellectual property rights domestically within its IP rights and match them in minimum standard proposed by TRIPS. Unilaterally increase the US IP protection offsetting international IP harmony that encourages special 301 use McDermott 92. Give protection of US IP is special 301 return letter by the government against out through the United equivalent adequate protection of US IP requires the US CRT investigate the remedy by section 301 expanded scope abroad requiring the US CRT identify countries that deny fair protection. India's trading retaliation have to affects USA action will file USA India trading relations where tariff protection could be revoked if not to protect the IP severely put aside by treaty finance vacation unilateralism to cannot stand by this rules of RBA with the USA will continue to use special 301 breaks international trade regulation Greenland protections until 19 special 301 US IP Chinese subject to China impose equivalent law in controversial without seeking input from WTO policy legal obligations special 301 to not go through avenues of full compliance remove the distortion created by offending measure not as a measure can impose only after independently special 301 these disputes escalate to 19 escalation to unilateral by the US how a trade war could erupt additional tariffs immediately proposed quotes equivalent target sectors of maximum distress, U.S. risk countries, WTO rules, hunting trade war causes extinction, so 95. Shifting order is simply to grow from one nuclear replaced by nationalism, fragile geopolitical effective food and secondary property fear of nuclear retail, similar hotspots collapse, U.S. support being crucial, rubber struggle between globalization, nuclear protectionism, make global order more complex, abilities, escalation, tensions, global pictures, climate change, world, and which U.S. escape war without WTO. And next off, the U.S. WTO should announce illegal interpretation that expands patent eligible subject matter to ethical human germline genome editing and seek judicial codification. The United States Federal Judiciary unanimously declined to protect such FBI on the grounds that they're concerned for abstraction creation of the president's significant reliance interest, but not support for legal modification of mandate on the issue to take to courts and grant certain expedited review upon appeal. The counterplans IPR enforcement announced a new legal procedure and bring to the courts, but instead of prohibiting conduct remains to the district level. That's also the case because the lower courts will follow the recommendation modifying law in the test case that's supposed to higher affirmation. Seagull 17. Quarterly courts. Relationship SBI side by side with interface and fierce conflict stages, enhance legitimacy, first court remedies that distribution and requiring courts that expect the scope that most do, relying on the decision of authority finally the court responsibility for the sense of authority for different resolution rights of court legitimization was present from Brown to Bacon to Reynolds and Oberfield, Cuthbert out Oberfield, and the relative side. The plan signals are a broad legal shift that collapses the faith of a slew of reliance interests in the dependability of law that returns to innovation and investments. Master 19. Each kind of court changes special law damage to reliance interests when reliance interests are damaged on stable investment fear they never recoup investments, refrain from making investment effective law may hold innovation at secrets. These slow technological advancements simply upset reliance interests regardless whether their changes helpful or harmful. One managed to expectation believe other changes forthcoming and refrain from investments. Disrupting reliance interests cascades destabilizing the entire edifice of vertical law that's supposed to be crushing investment and move on. 21. Party shape favor regulatory president actor expect change not under one clear right conditional lines to protect against the statute regular or subordination implicate with less emphasis take also unable to not play against foreseeable swings particularly in regulatory and foreign congress regularly builds upon rules established about judicial precedent take rule for what statutory interpretation could not say no fast posture exhibition constant planning to become applicable relaxation to provide and contribute to civil reliance once account for investment for example made by infrastructure that are competent offensive fixed assets must be altered these are most susceptible to a loss undermining domestic legal precedent collapses lines globally. No so 17. For the side rule of law 30 norms about the rest on notion that despite philosophy is strongest rule of law to be globally allocating the appreciation of soil water protection of a powerful Washington because they trust the U.S. uphold norms safety can no longer be trusted to be woke and help otherwise expect the same abroad. That causes rapid pull of nuclear Dr. 21. 23 prolific now come from allies. They race to require so the number of multiple racing odds at weapons might go off Asia and Europe go nuclear success for the U.S. umbrella reassured allies decide not to develop but now they rethink whether they can still rely on Washington. Climate. Extinction impacts justified and interpersonal analysis whether to reject the plans now attempt to permanently contain existential risk killing all over 23. Utah calculation reducing human life there never objectives of our relative to go sanctified risk analysis is going to address a single of each human being. There's always a reminder that cannot be calculated. It's not just a matter of fact there are relevant data elements that affect our calculations. We can never know. This is adequately creative rather than happily keep us actively searching for justice. The full outcome of search and link to their model, which proves that even if we consider existential risk as important, their model is us in a way insolvent case. No disease impact war 28 global force with being a threat to market deeper biological theories suggest after likely to lead to extinction after correlation between infections and lethality extreme rarity less optimal for list of less issue recover not enough to precipitate a collapse make it through events even if global strongest against as first is a false record risk above 0.1% incompatible how long humanity has lasted and knows fertility crisis sperm count is equivalent to fertility overall LM 17 relationship between sperm count and fertility is weak it's possible for sperm counts to be decline without there being a corresponding decline in male fertility there's no standard test for male fertility with no proportion of men who felt that this also was also increases. It does not mean that women fertility means for both several samples from the same man could vary greatly over time. No bioweapons. Blood 20. Technology with the weaponized agents have proven ISIS saw bioagents and actually succeeded. Pathogen will need to be isolated and disseminated. This is difficult as well as advanced training biology isolation requires a significant experience and safe contained environment to disseminate through loss on allergic infection. In perfect condition is safe for purposely needed years of textile and clothing materials. Possess the resources as safe for man patients. Existential risk. Constant curves true. Modeling proofs Ashburger 19. Existential risk. Constant indicates stopping economic growth would be temperature simply freezes the hazard at a high level leading to fatal catastrophe. Sooner or later economic growth enables reduce risk. We live in the history of act for isolation. Humanity wants to we may be advanced enough to create the means for permanent destruction, but not to care enough about decrease access to risk. And no gene therapy packet fails variability cost of commercialization. Call 23. Significant variability in craft of gene corrected cells across the percent difference. Study course gene therapy trust in academic setting. Many of these costs are much lower than commercial setting for the cell process to reduce and GMP costs.
Good. Okay, the TRIPS counterplan. I want to ask about like what patents the counterplan protects. First, where are these patents being filed?
Like, are you asking like how the counterplan solves?
Where are the where are the patents that the counterplan protects being filed?
Okay, like probably under like the international regime. Like we don't
Okay,
like the
like
counterplan.
there are no current germline patents being filed in the international.
Yeah, but
regime.
the argument would be that the U.S. would enforce the plan like under like the justification of international law rather than domestic
No,
statute.
it's not about even enforcement. It's like the patents that you protect are not international patents.
It doesn't matter because the U.S. like even if it's not, the U.S. like can say that international law requires us to protect germline patents and use that as the justification.
Okay,
for making
so
sure
to be clear though, like U.S. says international law protects domestic germline patents.
yes, the counterplan competes like it's a pick out of the word domestic.
Right, but it's domestic patents. Like the rights are still within the U.S. even if the force of law is from elsewhere.
What I don't understand that.
Like domestic. Okay, net benefits to the counterplans.
Seems to be always internal. The man counterplans reliance to say.
Besides like everything's internal besides
Yeah.
America.
Condo, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The trade scenario on the same counterplan, the McDermott card is from 1992. Like Alice Mayo,
Well,
eBay, like every
it's
IP protection. Why does that not cause?
Yeah, so there's
301?
a couple things. So like if you're asking like why it's not thumped, first is that our argument is that there's a brink for trade at
Like there's a
right
brink.
now.
Their cards from the
Past
9.
30
Their cards from the
years.
90s.
Yeah, not the McDermott
The
evidence.
McDermott
We read-
evidence establishes a special 301
Yeah,
exception.
it establishes the link for like
Yeah,
use of
but we
301.
read
An
impact-
application
yeah, but-
has happened.
Yes,
if you're
but
right
we
that
have impact
protection
uniqueness
causes
that
that.
is recent. The Soaking card is from September and says that trade wars will escalate in the
Well,
future.
like your impact card might be new, but
It
like
doesn't-
your
like, I
internal
don't
link card is
understand.
all
Well-
like about IP protection is from the 90s.
Yeah,
I
like
don't understand why this is like logically inconsistent. We could be correct on the fact that special 301 exceptions cause tension within trade regimes, and we can also be correct that these trade regimes specifically collapsing.
Okay,
out
so the
would
argument
be
is that
a
like
bad thing.
it did cause tension back then, but that didn't cause extinction.
Yeah, like we have warrants for
Okay.
why trade wars collapsing right now is bad.
Okay, the Reliance DA, it's the first like line of that card. The link card says, each time a court or Congress changes patent law, it damages Reliance interests.
Sure.
Like same question, any damage of Reliance
Like, why is
interests,
it
why
not
did that
Reliance?
not cause extinction?
Yeah, so I think there's two reasons. One is that current existing revisions of patent law are few and far in between, but also that these revisions
but like these
usually
patent
occur
laws
based
change
on
all the time. To be
adjustments.
clear, your threshold for the link is any change in patent
No,
law.
because if you look
damaging
at the
Reliance
Briggins
interests.
evidence, it's specifically talking about regulatory regime shifts that are incompatible with pre-existing law or not adjustments
Okay.
based on previous law.
And you just skip claw, right?
Yeah.
In theory.
10. Sorry, I take this off.
Plus, I'm gonna use the restroom while they're taking prep.
Separate 820.
818.
Oh, sorry.
You don't need to say it's hard. It's just a statement of fact.
also can do the triple integral on the board.
He can't even do one
I'm
integral.
struggling. I'm struggling. I'm getting a new teacher.
Wait, really?
Comp.
Oh. Oh yeah.
I didn't think I can do triple integrals anymore.
We just started like normal integrals.
I see. That was because we were in this room last time. So as we left, I was like, I'll leave a present for like whichever kids.
Did you write this?
We have to do a proof for.
Are you in multi?
Yeah.
I'm in multi right now, and we actually haven't done like calculus yet.
Oh,
We've just been doing like so we did like combinatrix and like induction theory for the entire first quarter.
We haven't done. We did induction BC. We haven't come back to that yet. We've been doing a lot of physics. Like
That's cool.
for that, it's a derivation of like how to calculate moment of inertia for like a sphere. That's
You're multi. Why don't you solve this?
I've not done multivariable calculus yet. It's probably 0. You want to take a shot? Stake the ballot and whether Russell can solve it.
If I can solve
I would do
it,
that,
we're
yeah.
nuked.
I'd give him the entirety of the 2 hours minus your help and a computer. Just have him like stand there.
Okay, I'm using ChatGPT on my phone.
Okay. Sure. I don't know if ChatGPT. It's not that great at math. Because I was trying to use it to solve some physics problems for my homework. and
Dang it,
didn't
Sam.
work out.
Okay, is everyone good for order?
Did you ever
I think
send it from here?
Huh?
Did you ever send it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's sent. The doc is sent.
I'm good for an order.
Okay.
It's gonna be the advantage, T subsets, T no quarts, the calamity K, the trips counterclaim, the remand counterclaim, the remand counterclaim, then reliance interests.
Say again, again?
Yeah, the advantage, T subsets, T no quarts, calamity K, the treaties counterclaim, the remand counterclaim, and then reliance interests.
Okay, I still haven't got the doc.
How much prep did you have left?
818.
Oh shit.
You sent out.
Oh,
Yeah.
of course.
I mean, thanks.
Okay, 20 used, so
That is true. 758.
758. Okay. So it's gonna be T subs, T no courts, calamity, the treaties counterplan, OCLR.
Okay, I know what I watched this.
And Kavneer, I hate to break it to you, but you're aware that you sent out something you didn't mean to send out, right?
You sound that laugh.
Come there. What? The AFO?
You did. You sent out like an entire 2AC file to Peninsula and to me.
And I pushed one.
Peninsula. I post out.
Shit.
It's alright.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. That's a tough one.
I didn't save the doc.
That's alright.
You can have 4 arguments, it's okay. They're true.
I mean, you have them on the wiki anyways.
Yeah.
A few less, but
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm not sure all of that is on the wiki.
Yeah, sorry.
that's okay.
Hey, do you want me to tell you a really quick story?
Sure.
We were at the Glenbrooks Round Robin the last year they did it before the pandemic, and we were debating Aiden and Sam,
Yeah.
Grace and Raynor. And before the tournament, Grace had said, I'll cut the Taiwan neg if you cut the EU neg against Aiden's AF. And I was like, okay, like, we can do that. And unfortunately, both of them, like, we didn't know which one they were going to read. So we had them both in a pre-round folder, and they were just both labeled like 1NC versus MBA. And we accidentally sent out the Taiwan 1NC when they had read EU. And Grace had cut 3 new DAs. We disclosed all of them when they didn't even read EU. And then they went on tilt and completely lost the debate as a result of that small mistake. So, you know, it's not a big deal. We'll survive. You'll survive.
We're not
It'll
gonna-
be okay. We're just going to debate.
Yeah, I think all
I'm
of
sorry about the 2AC though.
All of this has
Yeah.
been broken too, so it's fine.
Oh, yeah,
You just say all of it's broken so that no one looks
Yeah.
through it, Russell. It's all been broken.
It's
No one.
For the
You
recording.
exactly.
For the recording, it's
For
all
the
been
recording, it's all been broken. Nothing new to see here. Nothing new to see here. Okay. Nothing new. All right.
Can I get the order again?
Yes.
Yeah. Where did you put the counterplan you forgot about?
Forward.
Okay. I'm good.
Tell us.
Yeah.
Disease causes extinction. 1, they'll kill off the entire population by spreading between humans. Urban density and global travel make 1, virus spread fast. 2, it causes civilizational collapse in market and supply chain disruptions. 3, pandemics impede you and area of the stratosphere, otherwise causing you double catastrophe. That's all bomb. The burnout is wrong. Interconnectivity overwhelms it because diseases are transmitted faster because then they kill their patients. Gene mutations linearly increase the risk that those diseases overwhelm burnout. They're unknown novel agents. That's our water's evidence. The yes fertility crisis, people lose sperm, which causes extinction. Their evidence is outdated. The attempt to enhance humans for designer babies creates the risk that dangerous CRISPR technologies fall into the hands of bioterrorists who used to spread them around the globe. That's Walsh and Uhas. They designer babies and the development of them create the ability for bioterrorists to get their hands on the weapons in the first place. The Kuznets code argument, non-responsive plan doesn't stop innovation or growth, which means no turn, but it's key to germline editing, and patents are key to creating and furthering the Kuznets curve. And the last card, editing is possible. 1, the plan solves its first innovation in the field by allowing companies to secure patents on Mosby and Mendocino. 2, genome editing is rapidly scaling up despite challenges. Past 24. Plastic is seen genome editing research was massive pursuit to transform it before spreading editing or safer, more predictable advances outside CRISPR will drive tech in a new direction. Germinal editing electricity cannot be overstated. Future genome editing is has potential to drive research breakthroughs, revolution of medicine, laying a foundation for a healthier future. And T-substance. 1, we meet the plan changes eligibility requirements that affect all patents. 2, plan text makes in a vacuum preferred for ground and objectivity. 3, counter and means limits of Webster 6 used to indicate inclusion within limits. 4, prefer it. 1, ground picture and people and limits the topic to a few affirmatives. 2, predictability. Their evidence about county law, while ours comes from those common dictionary and cannot be throughout. Otherwise, I'm going to be in this room. 5, functional limits. 3, generis cap K flaw. Uniqueness complex. In other words, check. 6, reasonability good enough prevents substance crowd out. T, no courts. 1, the function of the plan. The function of the plan is probably courts, and that was in cross-ex. They don't have a violation yet. 2, plan text makes a vacuum. 3, protection be the courts. Uber tussy. 12, in the interest of where a person exercises IPR's protection and ability is synonymous to judicial enforcement. Prefer A, predictably our evidence finds enforcement in context of IPRs and former IP protections. B, ground the Congress plan is unbeatable. Deficits are impossible to find. And 4, functional limits. Speech generis cap clog. Uniqueness complex. In other words, check. 5, reasonability prevents substance crowd out. Calamity. 1, framework way the Afghans leaks to the plan's via the implication their reputation moves the Af and turns defense to offense, for significantly impacting core clash, eliminates educational benefits, and they've linked themselves back to their ethics offense because they read the extinction impacts before they got to the calamity case, so the even if argument doesn't make sense. 2, prove that solves and shields. 3, extinction outweighs. Billions die and it's irreversible. 4, no link util is good. 1, it treats everyone equally objective and has objective measures of pain and pleasure to not favor certain groups over others, which indicts their critique of the worst. 2, tautological by using util because everything relies on util. 5, can't solve. A, doesn't do the F. B, the all gets cracked down on the state. 6, an affluent appears to a voter impossible to leverage African policy and makes the all-moving target dexterous to passion. 7, content to voter disposal solves. 1, straight turns maximizing seven clash in education. 2, fairness. Campaign best ideas ever imagined. The treaty time. 1 no internal, no spillover, single instance of TRIPS amendment doesn't solve broadly, but it should, other TRIPS amendments that have happened in the past should be able to solve. B, no impact. Special 301 isn't key to all of TRIPS. Obviously, if it was, TRIPS would have already collapsed. And B, no reason TRIPS is key to all trade. There are other institutions like IMF, World Bank, that can keep trade at bay. And trade doesn't solve conflict. Asymmetry mitigates positive benefits. The 18, relationships between conflicts and trade. The trade cannot manifest inequity, which is an important cause of conflicts. And trade industry seldom examine has human rights to political. First, China is the largest country of Jews trade deficit. The relationship complicated by asymmetry. Trade industry may undermine the specific effects of trade. 2, permanent capital is the way the plan be done. 3, permanent capital, and then the after refers to the future bound. 8, should look to the future considering possible future events. And definitions must pass the predictability test before evaluating their impact and debatability. Interpretations ungrounded and unstable evidence are worthless. 4, permanent plan and capital plan on other issues solves the internal net benefit. Texts are inserted. Capital plans must be textually and functionally competitive. Maximizes germane comparison after and objectivity. 5, can't solve. The plan cites TRIPS already to demonstrate a clear purpose. That's must be inserted for reference. Not citing that TRIPS doctrine makes the plan look illegitimate because TRIPS already has a mechanism to do the aftermath. These 22 TRIPS allow members to exclude patentability, which is necessary to protect morality. Some have narrow approach and abstain from enacting morality clauses. 27.2 states with option concerning patentability. Some preclude patentability of human germline modification. Others don't even contain morality clauses. Large number that have morality exceptions do not enforce this. Local patent offices do not conduct examination jurisdictions without including a U.S. There were no statutory provisions of U.S. law corresponding to morality exceptions to patentability. 6, permanent build solves the internal. 7, permanently capital, and then the 7 GE HGE treaties failed on 21. Treaty regulating HGE. An obstacle is lack of consensus demonstrates HGE fundamental plank of IP law. No countries unfollowed in press. This law or will against other countries or free to withdraw because obstacle is a lack of agreement which should be restricting length of time required to negotiate and ratify to render agreement obsolete due to rapid scientific developments. And regulation alone fails. Companies will find any way to work around it, and patents are key for regulation and superior to any other regime, even an international one. That there must be evidence. Go to a minute. 1, do both. 2, permanent capital protection is absolute, but not a goal. VATI 15, protected IPR rights should not be considered as absolute, but goals should not be considered as an end, but as one of the tools. 3, permanent capital plan, then the plan begins to specify sequence, not time frame. 4, permanent the plan through the process of the capital plan. 5, can't solve clarity, must be 19. Doctrine, not with any consistency, inconsistent application diminishes clarity, resulting in loss of patent secrets, resulting in a reduced incentive for innovation and reduced incentivization is crucial to sustaining the bargain. This cannot be overstated, and the retroactive nature makes regulation reactive, not proactive. Must be 19. There are issues and ex post of judicial scheme patents must be granted and utilized before a challenger and to validate them in a case law play catch up to the tech rather than preventive solution. This is a tremendous deficit. 6, least that benefit must be 19. Jusuba triggering decline of moral utility. The court held inventions deceptive should no longer be grounds for invalidation and stipulated regulating patent issuance and morality fell within legislature, not the judiciary. Should I go to DA first? Okay. 1, no counterpoint. 1, no internal and no spillover. Their internal is descriptive. The score, not that the OLRC needs to take a new role now. 0 risk regardless. 1, OLRC action won't revitalize the role. B, no impact. A tiny agency in Congress can't overcome decades of disagreement and polarization. Get this garbage out of here. C, text law. They don't say which part of the U.S. code the North-South provision is inserted into. Permanent counterplan is the way the plan AF could be done. 3, permanent counterplan. Then the AF solves the internal. And 4, permanent plan and the counterplan on editing and subject matter and protects or it will be sent out. 5, can't solve. A, authority. The OLRC has the power to reorganize the code and not to enact new policies like total. Text funct is good. It's remain concerned, Afghan and objectivity. Certainty is key. Signaling is critical to getting other countries down. Come on, C, strike down. The courts and agencies will take it down. And grammar and perm to go. Go to the U. Patent law over the F is already certain. That's our Mosby and Mendocino evidence and Illumina Vanda Thom Pullman. 18. Question to Mayo was whether claim could have been saved by additional step by federal circuit issued in Vanda. The first interest in the affirmative. This is welcome development of innovation was a split decision, an important decision. Alleviate a concern that Mayo has raised. However, a few negative repercussions, ability of owners to enforce a patent outside this particular scenario may seem to create a substantial impediment to the effective patenting of diagnostics as disincentive to innovation. And there's no reason why investors in germline affect or impact alliances. They aren't dumb. They see that the AF is over the germline and not over alliances broadly, and there's only AF can solve alliances through germline harmonization. Alliances are structurally doomed. Green, wrap paper in Denmark 20. We are pushing a hopeful system in Europe for Asia for decades. As structural force indicate it's all of our interests together. China's going to rise of Russia's shown ability to damage. We can ask how this is taking on more burden 10 more years from now. My choice look exactly as you now. We'll see more networking. I'm optimistic. The logic is pretty escapable. Over the last 3 years, the relationships were even in the face of pressure and criticism. The U.S. has not lost any tree lies. Even Duarte and the case most certainly outweighs. First is black hole risks. They overwhelm, and it's their innovations which they've conceded to. It solves for the DA because it makes humans extinction proof from synthetic pathogens, burnout of the sun, and other existential risks. And 3, interspecies war outweighs because new species will overcome and kill off humanity, and you should err affirmative because you shouldn't overcorrect for a species that doesn't exist. I'm going to send this card out after. Uncertainty is latent within the patent system right now. Takes out line systems, just mirror 23. Balance must be achieved through morality and innovation. Legislative solution not kept pace with the exponential growth of gene editing. Legal system must prepare for tsunami and future cases involving gene editing. Legal culture which embraces rather than fears genetic litigation immensely helpful in striking the right balance. Sending it out.
Okay. I sent it out.
Yeah. It's done.
Okay, good. Yeah. Theory.
Condos are better in disposals.
You
One
just
straight
said
cards.
it.
Oh wait. Oh yeah. Just condo and floating pigs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
That I didn't say. Yeah.
I guess for this like gene editing stuff for designer babies, I still don't kind of get it. Like, would you consider like, let's see, like, would you consider chimpanzees and monkeys subspecies under the same genus? Like, what is the
They're different
subspecies?
species. Yes.
They're different species.
Yeah, they're not human.
Okay, is a subspecies like a categorization under the same species?
What?
Like, so you have a chihuahua
It's
and
like
a
a
golden
species
retriever,
similar to us, but not of us.
and that's a subspecies.
It's like different species, like a post-human species that's different. Our Rueda evidence substantiates this claim and explains that that
Your
species
Rueda
was-
evidence says that there will be different types of subspecies of humanity. What part of that categorizes it as something entirely distinct?
Well, even if it's something not distinct, that subspecies will want to kill us off because they think they're superior to us and they'll fight us for resources and stuff.
Like, you know, people of different races are considered subspecies of humanity, right? Like,
Okay, well,
why
then
does it
I don't
count
think
for
that's what Rueda is talking about. Rueda is making a claim about post-humans, ones that are not human.
post-humans?
Yes.
Ones that are not human but still part of the same. Okay, you know what? Whatever. Oh, the opposite.
I like subspecies might be a term in like bio that I don't understand, but like in the context of the AF, it's like another like species.
Okay, that's fine. Certainty key. Why does using a different legislative mechanism mean it's uncertain?
For which
LRC.
OLRC?
Yeah.
Because it's not the Congress, and our evidence isolates that Congress needs to
Well,
look
it's a
credible.
bipartisan body, like under the legislative branch. Why is Congress key?
Or are you talking about the OCLR?
OLRC.
LRC?
Yeah.
Like, could you explain what the OLRC is so I can
Yeah,
contextualize it?
like it's just an independent bipartisan body under the legislative branch. Why is Congress enacting the plan specifically?
Yeah.
And what part of that sentence?
So Congress key was on remand, and it looks it doesn't look credible because the members of Congress are not passing the plan, and it looks like some type of interest influencing the plan and influencing its passage.
Your policy advocate about Congress just says that Congress ought to pass a general policy to which the USPTO and the judicial branch should clarify it further. Like, why is the approval of the members of Congress key for certainty?
Well, so one, like our evidence explains that the U.S. needs to look credible in its signal to other countries in terms of getting modeling and to look like the preeminent scientific power. And two, this is like something that's not been
credible
used
if
before.
we use a more partisan body.
Huh?
Like,
because it's not Congress. It doesn't look genuine, and it doesn't look like it's Congress.
We've
doing
read
it.
evidence saying that Congress fights all the time that they don't agree. Why is that a signal of credibility?
Because the plan is where they agree.
Tim?
Yeah, start. said reason to reject the team was just condo, right?
Influence.
Okay. Okay, stop her. Use 4:30.
That's correct. I do it 5:30.
Just saving the docs. Okay. Doc is done. The order is going to be the trips counterplan, then just kiss. Okay.
You said trips and advantage 1.
Yeah. Is MBA ready to go?
I haven't received it.
Okay. Okay. I realized the one I sent didn't have the final save.
Oh.
One sec, let me just update it. Okay, I resent it. It should be completely saved now.
It's called the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm opening it. One second.
Alright, everything good to do?
I've got is the document different? It kind of looks the same.
It should be.
Unless I download
It
the wrong
is.
document.
Yeah, it's different. It's got like
Yeah, I didn't add
it has
like
like trade
other
dash
stuff.
dash
Yeah, I didn't add the
Okay, I have that.
Okay.
I'm good.
That was good too. Cool.
I'm explicitly kicking the first plank of the counterplan. All of their arguments about treaties failing and about the counterplan failing or not solving the case are irrelevant because we're going for a dissent to the case. Trade wars outweighs versus magnitude collapse of trade, removes economic constraints on military aggression, sparking resource insecurity that triggers nuclear escalation in global hotspots such as Ukraine, Europe, and the Middle East. Independently, the U.S.-led trade order preserves multilateral necessary to mitigate inevitable existential shocks like refugee crisis and nuclear proliferation. That's Ahsokan evidence is fast and turns the case. Our evidence from 2 weeks ago and describes ongoing conflicts that can easily escalate. Now time frame outweighs you can only live once and controls the direction and turns case inflating numerous hotspots extinction. That's how 24. Hotspots that trigger are Armageddon including the nukes and Hanoko and threats in Asia as well as the Middle East comparing to previous. There's an irrational element that could be different not only in 9 countries increasing
influencing, interact with their decision makers, or driven by emotional stuck and control that's in existing and wellness fucking highlighted by Iran, China, India, and Pakistan. Their defense is non-responsive now, is uniquely key, even if they're right about globalization in the past. We have not because solving war in the past, we have a specific short-term scenario that outweighs its Kuroshi. 1017 global outlook will be more uncertain and volatile. Globalization is relation not to globalizing, but just restructuring. Geopolitics was risk environment to measure power operations, supply chain and increasing conflict, and the need for a rule-based order is greater rather than letting multilateral governing economic relations or free by national competition protection the world would benefit from becoming strengthening case and not only foster economic prosperity and underpinning and geopolitical stability and new dynamics is inevitable, almost play by the rules. The brink is now and causing extinction. It's the LA 24 evidence, not bad, but not great state of the economy or outperform the interest rates in a plunge of war that fails us and no oppressively banks face imbalance, cutting over rates too quickly and keeping too high, and it hurts things. Turn out Valley 2024 brace for the death of globalization, exaggerated ratio of companies makes it a flock to the World Economic Forum. Evidence, mark the card evidence. Now the trade. Now they also dropped that trade that protectionism destroys the U.S.-India relations. It's a McDermott evidence, which I'll insert here. That's on the brink. Grossman 24 for clear evidence of securing interest with India holds promise for U.S. and counter China despite optimism of partnership, relations more fragile, real future cooperation. Trade is key. Manic 24. Trade that you use stronger ties and independent ties in for such an importance of trade in the U.S.-India. Trade agenda where should be India to the U.S. Insufficiently accommodating of the developing countries' status. Nuclear war. That's by 19. India and Pakistan are the most likely scenario for nuclear conflict. Pakistan never taking rate. Military escalation. The U.S. Can reduce nuclear risk in South Asia by helping India. More originally in the face of terrorism, U.S. India partnership and counterterrorism have advanced considerably much well to concern to the U.S. India relations to eliminate that U.S. support is assured and encourage realistic assessments. Now the link was dropped. The plan is blatant protectionism first. It's Special 301. The plan is unilateral, both from the blue eligibility expansion for germline editing, which makes the U.S.'s domestic IP comparatively stronger than other countries, and offsets international harmony and for IPR protections. That provides the basis for the U.S. to use Special 301 to bully countries into also extending germline editing eligibility through escalatory tariffs. That's McDermott evidence. Future tariffs, and especially those justified through Special 301, emboldens every WTO member to start trade conflicts bilaterally. Is a flagrant violation of the rules and encourages retaliatory response. The signal itself, a Special 301 use, sets a precedent for unilateral measures, which causes global trade war escalation. That's all the child evidence. Explicitly not reading any new link cards here because Kamir dropped it into 2AC, which means that Russell gets no new answers. Now they say no spillover. Special 301 not being key to all of trips is irrelevant. The DA is not about trips. It's about how unilateral IP measures cause the U.S. to tariff under Special 301, which cause escalation. Second line is also wrong. Even if trips isn't key to all trade, our argument is that only harmonization prevents tariffs, which they dropped to uniquely hurt trade. Single instance fails is also relevant. Their warrant was that a single instance of trips doesn't solve. This isn't relevant to our uniqueness counterplan, which I'll explain below. Framing issues that for all these spillover arguments, you just stick them to the exact 2AC words that they said, and they get no new extrapolation of the spillover stuff because none of them was responsive to our DA, to the DA to the case. Now, the counterplan generates uniqueness. It sets a domestic IP law through the TRIPS minimum standards, which lasts the basis for Special 301 use. Specifically put, if the U.S. imposes a minimum with other countries, there's no extra domestic policy that we can bully countries into, which is the McDermott evidence. All of their warrants are caused by unilateral Special 301 use that the counterplan stops and reverses, which means that there is uniqueness for the DA. Now, permanently the counterplan kicked the first plan, which I said above, and it doesn't do the plan or protect patents, which is severance. We voted for Condo. Do both fails. The inclusion of the plan links the unilateral DA. The counterplan only generates uniqueness. It doesn't guarantee it. It resets the status quo to zero, putting the U.S. back in tandem with international IP by complying with minimums, but future protection breaks that equilibrium, creating disharmony and mismatch between domestic and international IP, which allows the U.S. to use Special 301, which is all the McDermott evidence. Counterplan then the plan may be legitimate, but it links to all of our do both offense because it means that the U.S. would do unilateral policy after which triggers all the impacts on above. Now, other issues also doesn't solve because we read a DA to the case. Now, Condo is good. The status quo is the logical option. We can combine counterplans first and next flex topic. No longer have inherent controversies or key in terms of limit the topic, but counterplans is functional limits exacerbated by a natural incentive to sandbag the best offense until the 2AC. 2 is reasonability. Conceded from T. Competing in terms causes substance crowd out. Every other argument is a reason to reject the argument. Argument not to team 5. 3 is arbitrariness. Unpredictable rules are worse than no rules. Punishment should fit the crime. 4 is testing. There's unique resolutional benefit to Condo. Allows us to test from multiple angles. 5 is skewing contradiction inevitability. Dis at speed, highlighting framework case, etc. Dis sucks. It's on Condo. The net can't read mutually exclusive counterplans, which is key to flex. 2 is process counterplans and added planes, force perms. 3 is that arbitrariness means that there's no consensus for it, so it can't solve our offense. The case.
No disease impact versus biology. Infectious disease cannot be lethal because they cause burnout, which overwhelms any sort of interconnectivity or offense that they went for in the 2AC2's empirics path pandemics were contained, even if disastrous, the entire risk is below 0.1%, which is the order evidence. Most recent evidence is proofs. That's 2022, the pandemic of during incubation to very small probability data survey of the GCR conference showed the median estimate for killing 1 billion to be 5% order estimated for population to risk from a pandemic in the next 100 years to be 0.01%. Disease can cause extinction. That's also 28% are likely to cause human extinction or needed evidence of base. Risk is low, past operators not composed, only extinction of small minority animal species, only a mammal is a rat native only to Christmas Island, market Carter Island. The DA obviously also turns all the case scenarios because it prevents effective cooperation over stuff like disease, etc. And they have had a modeling warrant which is taken out if they cause a trade war. Now, fertility crisis is wrong, it's not existential. And just because sperm counts are broadly declining, it doesn't mean that fertility necessarily goes on too, which is the almond and mandrala evidence is also far off. And there's alternative causes, which means that germline editing uniquely can't overcome them. Now, the economist evidence is wrong. Status quo solves. I'll insert it. The economist evidence in yellow says that other technologies are solving. Reject the card anyway. It's a laundry list of extinction scenarios and has no warrant. But germline editing fails. CRISPR and DNA editing solves nothing and suffers from barriers that make it impossible for them to escalate to the level of extinction. Their evidence just said that it's possible, but our argument is that it wouldn't cause extinction. No gene therapy. In fact, that's con 23 significant relevant in carbon and gene corrected cause members different study for gene therapy trials in academic setting. Many of the customers lower than the commercial setting for different cell processing materials and GMP cause. Now, Jones' evidence starts at 0. It's about genetically modified humans feeling superior and suddenly lashing out and killing the population. That's obviously nonsense and illogical, since even if a few humans are genetically enhanced, they can't just kill the population, or there are too many genetically enhanced people, and everyone is equal. Insert the Jones evidence in yellow. The innovation impact, they clearly don't solve this scenario. It only says that only a handful of scientists who ignore ethical guidelines will cause blackball risk. There is no way the plan can solve that and prevent ignorance. Also, I'm pretty sure there was no explicit extension of this argument. So you should not get a new 1AR extrapolation, but biotech but the app is infeasible anyway. This hurry. 19, someone argued biotech extraterrestrials are many tech and most similar concerned institution funding already consider misuse and research maintaining oversight of risk and reduce social radiation not possible. There will be considered regulation, important regulation to speed with that can focus on proper rather than process-suitable frameworks encourage bio. Now, no bioweapons impact versus access. Jefferson. Adult 14 percent of bio make it easy for anybody to enter biology, not reflect or realize academic labs, and researchers will struggle with every stage of the process infrastructure, complex machinery, advanced organization, plans are built from well in a systematic way, market card is systematic way. 2 is knowledge and capability to Jefferson. Adult 14 languages and bio and DIA bio overseas members involved in sophisticated experimental biology amateurs. This demonstrate challenges to successfully conduct even rudimentary experiments. Labs have strict rules about access. Their argument about how designer babies make bioterror more likely is obviously nonsense, and all of our arguments about the plot.
Okay. We're gonna take some prep.
Okay.
Starting.
Hold on, how much? 758.
Seven. Good for cross.
Yeah.
Okay. Could you just explain to me the special 301 provision?
Yeah, so Special 301 is like a report that the U.S. does every year with a list of countries that they're likely to tariff in the future. Our argument is that the app would cause Special 301 use against countries, which is bad.
Why? Like, the
Because
app
it
isn't
creates
tariff
unilateral IP protection that offsets balances like across the globe, and only the counterplan.
Okay, so let me get this straight. So
Yeah.
the USPTO implements patent protection domestically,
Yes.
and then the US Trade Representative just is like, oh man, I should tariff China some more. That's a scenario for the DA.
Well, I mean, like, you're like exaggeratedly oversimplifying it, but
Wait, is that not what this DA is?
our argument is that if the U.S. were to unilaterally increase its IP protection, they would have interest and self-interest to tariff other countries
So
that
wait,
don't fall under that protection.
why is allowing domestic patent protection for germline patents going to cause tariffs towards other countries? I'm just confused about that.
Because like all of our link arguments, which by the way the 2AC did not answer, is reasons why the U.S. would use Special 301 against countries that don't.
So no,
that
I'm
don't have
asking
the
for
same
the
exact
I'm
IP
asking for
standards,
the warrant.
because,
I'm asking for why.
like,
they
are you
would use
asking
special-
like why the U.S. would want to tariff a country if they don't have the same IP standards?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, because it's in the interest of the U.S. companies. Because if they're in a foreign market, or if they go to a foreign place, like whatever, or I don't know, like whatever country.
Oh wait, okay. Is the DA that domestic, like the U.S. Trade Representative would want to get other countries on board with domestic protections, and then they tariff other countries until they protect their IP like we do?
Yeah, like that's like one component of it.
What's the other component?
Like, are you asking like why?
You said that's one component. What are the other components?
Yeah, the other component is that U.S. is self-interested and wants to protect its own companies, which causes it to tariff companies that don't have the same IP protections that the U.S. provides.
Okay, so like we just don't have the same IP protections in like tons of other fields. Why isn't
Yeah,
that
but the
inevitable?
counterplan solves that. Like we explicitly like solved that argument.
Oh, okay. So that gives it uniqueness.
Yeah, like the counterplan, like it's unique.
So wait, why don't those things thump either? Like you've read.
Yeah, because we read evidence about why a trade war now is likely to occur if we were to use Special 301.
Okay, so you're just hedging on impact uniqueness to get out of
I
link
don't-
thumpers.
Like I don't understand like why like those like a link thumper.
So
with
why shouldn't trade wars
Our
have
argument
already
is that
happened?
the
Why
world
should-
is tense right now. We are on the brink of a trade war. If the U.S. were to Special 301 now, then that will escalate. Like it's that simple. Like even if we have Special 301 in the past,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter because the brink is now.
The Jones evidence or the Economist re-highlight. Where
Yeah.
do you think this like has a sentence that's highlighted or
Yeah,
like,
it says stuff like ability to select embryos through like vitro fertilization, stem cell technologies, and those things are all like alternative things that solve.
Hey, I have a question before you move on. I think you read several cards that were in the doc, unless I just can't find them. Like white or something?
Huh. Wait, did you also?
I was flowing. I wasn't flowing off the dock.
I also was not flying off the doc, but I was just looking at the
Oh, like
doc
white.
that you sent only has 3 cards.
Wait, I think.
And you read, on my flow, you read like 6 cards. So there was a whole run of stuff after the Elliot card that you marked like 5 words early.
Oh yeah, I
It's
said
not-
I sent
It's
out
in
like
the it's in the
Oh,
second.
yeah,
twist.
yeah.
There's
I-
a second email. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm good.
yeah.
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
I just had the wrong doc up when I was looking across X. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
thanks,
that's
Aiden.
okay.
One in our set. It's gonna be clock and then the ORC countdown.
You mean Reliance?
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. Reliance decided ORC countdown.
Okay, we use force.
Dude, I got so scared. I thought you wanted me to take Reliance as yeah.
Wait, so the
So Reliance
second,
decided and then ORC.
I'm sorry, I'm not paying attention to you. The second 2 in C doc, I don't need the first 2 in C doc at all.
Yeah, like I just
I'm,
sent like
I'm closing out of it, and
yeah,
then
because that one wasn't
I'm
saved
opening
properly.
the other one. Okay,
Yeah.
just in case I need it after the round, and then 1 in R.
Yeah.
Sorry, order.
Reliance, ORC. Okay. So we're good?
Yeah.
Cool. Reliance concede the thumper's links non-exist, also concede no internal LRC. The counterplans policy after results in refinalizing bipartisanship necessary to resolve imminent nuclear escalation and climate change. The counterplans policy has the Office of Law Revision Council recommend the plans of protection by altering U.S. code to propose the office the best interpretation of congressionally enacted statutes as distinct. U.S. code summarizes but is not itself law. The courts and the agencies who defer to it, which solves the case and the internal. The answers to the deficits. First, yes vote for the plan becomes an example of bipartisan policy relief over political quagmire and finds bipartisanship elsewhere. Besides, Congress becomes a broad signal to other nations and policymakers of LRC effectiveness model. Monopoly on case proves this is a huge issue. Full-on playing also proves it sends a big signal to other lawmakers. B is yes bipartisanship. Success votes upon success of political estimates. The ORC has an agency to use for provisions and center codification of law in Congress and leave partisanship. This triggers an identical compliance. Show 20. Law of significant change between enactment and timing ordinance with the U.S. code compilation enactments of the Office of Law Revision Council has significant power over how courts litigate advocacy and enact law interpreted as treat U.S. code as safe for Congress law. Lawyers and scholars look only to the code and ignore sections of the assumption is how the code is inaccurate, have treated otherwise use the editorial decisions of the law. This is incorrect because it only says that discretion to change Congress. This improves law by making it less confusing and time consuming. Cut the code at time consuming. It also addresses issues that arise from judicial construction of statutes by informing courts that their interpretation is erroneous. Courts quickly follow up based on the signal of legislative intent. Allegro 3. A second will serve as a capital way examine court to construe statutes and resolve conflicts many attributed to failure to be clear precisely enact the U.S. code. Authorizing otherwise to remove imperfections of substance and form to remove laws already enacting and clarify the meaning, reduce circuit conflicts over federal law. See no text law normal means is obviously within the IP code. Otherwise, the app also is potentially insolvent and nonsensical. It's an impossible burden to specify all legal minutiae within a reasonable counterplan plan text. Prem 2. Counterplans are
address voting issues, respecting economic proposed occupability and responsibility. 1. Topical strengthening IP rights act requires the force of law. Soleimani 17. Rights pertaining to enforceable influence through that state the existence as a portion of law which attracts and remedies the compliance distinct US code is a summary of law, not the force of law itself. Force 9. When a law is public law in sections so large for researchers, laws are conforming to US code. The code provides pre-professional evidence of laws and conscious statutes at large and legal evidence of laws and differences. You go inside the code, you have to make sure that the code is not accurate. That's true irrespective of the capitalist binding appearance. 1999. It's intended to be the only way that topical rights law is being enacted by Congress conscious and locally established code, not to be a replicable substitute. To resolve is a systematically enacted and means by law. What's verses 64? Resolve is enacted as established by law. Preemptive applying the plan obviously does not solve links to all of the preemptive both answers are due above. Also links to the internal seen as a weak follow after codification already occurred. Dilutes the signal bipartisanship within the LRC. Other issues rejected is functionally intrinsic capitalists only need to compete off of functional mandates. 1. Grounded functionally intrinsic purpose and limit on negative generics, which gives F an asymmetric advantage. Process capitalists are a key component of the negative arsenal, especially on this topic or outkeys in political, and there's no link to any stats. 2 is logic, contextual competition, glorifies semantics, and teachers and logical decision making. Ban the plan would not complete. 3. Texas incentivizes teams to either make their plans super fake to make capitalists not compute or jam with meaningless words and phrases in order to prove their way out of every capital line. We reject when our assertions for why textual competition would not include scramble. That's ad hoc and arbitrary. 4 is arbitrary. Textual competition is ad hoc contrived standard that should be rejected. Anything else that involves infinite theory in terms that diverge to no negative theory and it feels do both answers will apply below and also substantively feels editing and expansion in this case is so big to be truthful. It's only the plan sends a durable signal of effective policy making being proficient through the OLRC, which is key for the revitalization of that agency. Any other policy is seen as farce and seen as benign and irrelevant because there's no actual policy that's being proposed there. And the substance of the capitalist solves it has the Office of Law Preparation Council recommend that plans protection by altering the US Code to propose the Office of Best Interpretation of congressionally enacted statutes. That's distinct. The US Code summarizes, but it is not the law itself. The courts and agencies still defer, which solves the case. The LRC has ample authority to revise the US Code. They can remedy defects as substantive or procedural and can organize it however they want. The LRC has extremely broad authority to resolve errors and ambiguities in statutory interpretation. It's underused due to resources in the status quo, but the capitalist solves for it. Item 7. The LRC has paper authority to serve as law restriction keeping statutory and methods working off the law paper. Power sounding process, modest staffing translation, limited revision as a practical by significant loss opportunity by infringing the office. Judicial tasks may be easier and quality improved and no backlash. Everyone wants to pass bipartisan policies without having to go through the docket and risk infighting a compromise. The OLRC is popular will be hoisted by both parties after the counterpoint occurs and no certainty of it. It's the same rule pronounced by the same actor based on the same principles of legal authority. It's also not abnormal process outwards. Appearance is identical compared to the status quo. Not the plan's a huge departure. The results of massive new protections. If anything, they link more because the OLRC participation is inevitable because all of the laws are codified. No strike down. Appears above proves that law. Lawyers and courts reinterpret provisions in the same light as codifications of law. It's also irrelevant because it the signal anyways. The grammar stuff is irrelevant. The office is of law revision. That was in the counterplan text. Preemptive of links or severs. It changes the law itself, which requires a congressional enactment or judicial decision beyond the OLRC. Triggers controversy and litigation. It's also exclusive because the counterplan specifies no source, which means there's no codification.
7:37. Sorry.
covers the innovation advantage, the trade counterplan, and OLRC counterplan.
Or reliance interests after OLRC.
Okay. Reliance interests after OLRC. Is that good?
No, because I didn't listen to you. You said reliance interests after.
Yeah, it's innovation advantage, trade counterplan, OLRC counterplan,
Okay.
reliance interest. Yeah. Peninsula.
Oh, one second, sorry. Let me open and save the doc. Yep, I'm good.
Cool.
Give me 1 second. Yeah, good.
Disease causes extinction of scenarios beyond infection. It causes societal glass stratospheric implosion and warming, all cause extinction. That's bomb. And treatment makes it they say burnout is overcome by mutations like the longer incubation times. They say empiricist. It goes our way because globalization makes it increasingly likely now than no evidence or evidence. It's more recent than hostile evidence. It doesn't assume new mutation or recombination and zoonotic spillover that overcome defense. Now they treatment makes it extinction of stem cells. The scenario later in the card says that germline and innovation of the genome is key to solve future generations. So the economist you're hiding is zero. Now the Jones evidence is logical. It says that we can kill lower species. We should only care about our current human beings because we don't know what future human beings might feel. So they certainly would kill them because they see them as competitive resources, which is worse. Trade count. Zero link. Cross-supply the thumbers from the reliance interest is out. It's stumped to death. Their link evidence is from the 90s and only about general patent protection. That's happened thousands of times. Illumina and Vonda are disagreeing cases about Alice Mayo are huge strength in the U.S. patent law. If this were true, then probably the largest set in patent law in recent history should have also ignited alliance breakdown. That's Hallman. Vonda thumps. It opens the door for eligibility, but increased confusion led to litigation. That's Brush. 20 denials not resolved when 30th and now Vonda endorsed the patent eligibility. At least some claims to rely on natural law, the federal circuit, and claims are patent eligible. Claims residency in Congress and clarified uncertainty, and until then, federal circuits interpretation can be confusingly contradictory. Illumina allowed narrow diagnostic technologies, but did not solve. Letter 21 Newman dissented arguing that we have large courts holding the fundamental inquiry to find diagnostic rights. Important proof for thought Illumina to be the federal circuit applies to patent courts of diagnostic methods. Illumina over the door for exception, whereby conventional steps do not automatically doom patent eligibility. Open possibilities for novel inventions may result in narrow claims. Xeon explicitly conceded the thumpers from the other dissent, so you know that there have been similar patent protections to the plan in the past, and these also should have signaled to our allies that we are shrinking our patent system, that we are fixing it, and that we might signal more tariffs. So that thumps all the perceptions of now the new counterplan mandate grants new permutations of the 1AR. It's reciprocal. It's like reading perms against the 2NC counterplan perm to the plan, and we can all in all other instances signaling effect overcomes the plan's effect. How the insert of the text, the link turn is huge and goes throughout the plan. Aligns with TRIPS agreement by applying the order public doctrine to germline patents, which ensures that the U.S. adheres to current TRIPS standards. They dropped our modeling evidence of the 1EC. So it goes out. That takes out the link because it means the plan doesn't look like the U.S. is going to stand out alone. That's Matthews and Mosby. There's also latent uncertainty in the SCO, which means that tariffs would be inevitable. That's Myrick from the reliance interest is out. The counterplan looks more uncertain because it doesn't have the U.S. adhere to any more binding TRIPS standards with terms. This here are no terms case or time frame there. No evidence here. Our impact is quick as disease and since it spreads rapidly. There's no terms case even if our alliances collapses about U.S. response and resiliency. So it still solves the new. They also drop the alliance. They also drop the alliance defense from the other from the alliance interest side. It says the alliances are overall resilient. They have sustained shocks like Trump, shocks like Trump and other NATO adversaries like Russia encroachment on Ukraine. So there's no total collapse ever there. A new card that they read just says that alliance never says alliance solves their Hamlin card. Their India scenario literally never says that they're literally never allied internally to war. They just read an impact card and says it's on the brink. Now their Elliott card was marked way too early and says globalization is failing in the status quo, which is our uniqueness argument.
Go to case.
Case.
The Karibi card is not about germline, it's about synbio.
Karibi card is not about germline.
Genome editing is possible. Pasessa says that it's overcoming commercialization and innovation.
Gene editing is possible. It's overcoming commercialization and innovation.
That's
Pasessa.
Pasessa.
OLRC.
Conform to the counterplan. Non-positive laws are still laws. They've read 0 cards differentiating them from force of law. Non-positive laws. Titles still carry force of law. RSC. Noted. Code is divided into titles according to subject matter. Some are positive laws. Some of the rest are not positive law. Non-positive law. Positive laws still contain laws. The two types are the result from different processes. Non-positive laws. The title still contains separately enacted statutes, especially when they never even outline the statute or title of the counterplan. So definitely error out here preferred. It's from the OLRC, so it's definitely more predictable. They also drop the value evidence cross-apply from remand. IPR predictions are not absolute. They're merely a goal, not necessarily law. Answers their first IPR card. Their evidence is also not a definition or on this Solomon card. It's just defining normal means. It's terrible basis for competition because there's infinite things the app could feasibly be, which that they can pick out of. Proves that the counterplan still carries the same force as the plan and is therefore not competitive. That's key to check back against cheating counterplans that pick out of the affirmative force of law requirement. Their internal limits the floodgates to agent counterplans that divorce the topic from IPR prediction good bad that disincentivize as research. The neg is fine now. Sweet and spillover pants bad and ban concede from functional competition and condo that those are sufficient. They also have red cards that say the plan must carry force of law. If we win that, then we don't defend the counterplan isn't force of law. The Wiesner card says that the counterplan is how laws are quantified and says that your adversary can't show that the code is accurate. No functional or legal difference. Alamont says that the code wasn't intended to be law, not that it currently is. And the Ellsworth evidence or the result definition just says that you have to do it by law, which obviously their counterplan does too. By law, not the force of law. This solvency is incoherent. Extend the authority deficit. You've grossly misread your own evidence. You already has 0 authority to totally rewrite the plan. The only authority they have is to reorganize submissions by Congress to the U.S. Code. That's a cross. We got that.
Okay, can you send out the perm text and then
Yeah.
we'll start.
That's not right.
Okay, okay, got it. Start. 5:30. counterplan, then the OLRC counterplan, and then advantage one. Okay. Is everyone good to go?
Yeah, we're good.
Maybe Ellis is good. Sorry.
Trade war outweighs the collapse of trade, removes economic constraints, which causes aggression and resource insecurity, which results in escalation globally. Hotspots Ukraine, Europe, Middle East, all go nuclear. That's Sofian evidence. 2 frames. First, the time frame outweighs our impact. Is fascinating about the immediate effect of Special 301 use. You can only die once, and intervening actors can check long-term impacts like disease and gene editing. Disease is not fast. Their explanation proves it because it requires stuff like mutations, etc., to occur in interconnectivity and allow the disease to spread, etc., which means that their impact comes way later than ours. 2 is that the DA quickly turns the case a short-term tariff spike causes trade wars and escalating tensions between countries and multilateral institutions, which makes global cooperation impossible, prevents other countries from following on to adopt germline standards that the plan would implement, which means that diseases would be inevitable globally and the cooperation would be impossible. Alliance defense doesn't matter. We're not going for the India scenario because they've conceded that trade will cause extinction in the short term. Uniquely now, which I'll explain a little bit more on the brink stuff, which I'll do later. Now, the counterplan solves and creates uniqueness by setting all of our domestic IP law in concordance with international standards, removing the basis for Special 301 use, which is the McDermott evidence. Framing issue for all the thumpers is that it does not assume the uniqueness counterplan that harmonizes U.S. IP law with international standards, which means that even if they're right that these cases like Illumina and these Vandecard it cause upsets, the counterplan resolves these issues by harmonizing us with global standards. Now, Special 301 being used in the past is also irrelevant in this debate. Their thumpers are wrong. Our argument is that even if past tariffs were okay, tariffs now would cause extinction. Russell dropped the Qureshi and Elliott evidence that says that the brink is unique now. Qureshi is from 1 week ago and says that trade is fragile and the risk of protectionism is tense. The uniqueness argument definitely goes our way because it says that shifting global dynamics now means that we are uniquely prone to escalation, not answered by the 1AR, so I do not have to reinvent the wheel. Our argument is that if we Special 301 now, that will cause escalation, even if it didn't cause escalation in the past, because the U.S., because the whole global order is tense right now. Now, the link is massive and quick. The plan's unilateral eligibility expansion for a germline editing makes U.S. domestic IP stronger than others, offsetting harmonization and creating a basis for the U.S. to use Special 301 to bully countries to expand germline. That's a McDermott evidence. It emboldens every international actor and encourages retaliation, which is all the Chow evidence. The link alone turns the case because that offends global cooperation and stability. Now, the link turn first is that this is obviously new. The 2AC did not make a link turn argument specifically about how they create increased harmonization and solve the link, which means that the 1A, you should scratch this off your flow because I did not have the block to respond it, but it's wrong anyway. First is time frame. The Special 301 report happens on a yearly basis. It'll take long for new countries to implement new IP standards, and developing countries must enforce it perfectly for no Special 301 report. 2 is no follow-on. Their card does not say that other countries model our IP. It simply says that people may look to our ethical guardrails. 3 is that the card, that the Zelensky card is the only modeling card, does not come close at all. It says it's all about why the U.S. should not be behind in germline innovation and should not be behind other countries, not that other countries will actually follow on, which means that the link is massive, and this is a new argument anyway that you should not buy. Now, the exception term, it's wrong. First, it's intrinsic. Nowhere is there an element of exception in the plan nor the counterplan. Intrinsicness is bad because it justifies the gap, talking on infinite things, which makes it impossible to be negative. 2 is that it clearly does not solve the whole explanation and truancy on permutation to both, is that any unilateral action by the U.S. means that other countries won't be able to follow onto that IP, which results in Special 301 use against other countries. And the link was dropped, which means that the exception perm can't be their way out in this debate. The OLRC counterplan can see the perm, kick it, we're not going for it. The case. Disease does not cause extinction. They have a lot of, Russell threw out a lot of buzzwords about mutations, interconnectivity, etc. But the fact is that infections and disease cannot be lethal. Burnout overcomes all of these barriers. They said that they're saying that their wars overcome this burnout argument, but the Ord evidence is much better and says that no disease can ever cause extinction because of burnout. They've also conceded empirics. Every pandemic has been contained, even if they were disastrous. The entire risk is below 0.1%, and considering our past track record, that's an toward evidence globalization does not make it increasingly likely now, because because even if that's right, our evidence is that disease will never cause extinction anyway. The NOI evidence also cites statistics and cites reports and says that a disease is impossible to cause extinction. The House of Evidence does a study of 200,000 years, and even worse diseases have never caused extinction, which means that there is no scenario for this impact. Now, Russell was very light on the argument about why germline editing and gene editing fails. They conceded like 3 cards from the 2NC. The Karoui evidence says that germline editing is infeasible at a large scale and will be controlled by institutions and regulations regardless, which means that it won't be able to cause extinction and won't be able to be developed anyway. They've also conceded the Kahn evidence as well as the 1NC evidence that says that CRISPR, DNA, gene therapy, etc. are all impossible to develop, which means that they won't be able to cause extinction and they won't be able to develop even if there's innovation now.
3 out of 3.
Tell us when I card out.
Nope.
Case DA. Everyone good?
Disease outweighs is coming out, and only germline genome editing has the capacity to solve new factors like recombination, mutations, animal farming to read ABR, ensure that the next disease is nothing like we've seen before. This is 1AC Waters is from 2024 making predictive claims about the futures. Air AF, you know that our internal link is strong, and they've only gone for impact defense to our scenario, which means that you know for certainty that any impact in the future will be solved by the AF. So you know that we can solve our impacts, but you compare that to an unquantifiable impact with a shoddy internal link. You have no idea when the special 301 trade wars are coming, if it should have already come, or if the SQO is going to overwhelm because of their evidence that says trade wars are coming now. Only our impact uniqueness is reverse causal to when I see water says that CRISPR has the unique capability to resolve the next premise, and they've missed the boat. Their evidence is about disease causing extinction naturally and conventionally, and pandemics coming naturally. All of our evidence is about pandemics causing extinction through other means, and pandemics being artificially created through animal farms and zoonotic diseases, which overwhelms their defense. There are two scenarios which I'll go for. First is stratosphere collapse. In the event of a pandemic, will stop injecting aerosol particles in the atmosphere, ensuring that stratosphere collapse the stratosphere collapses, making Earth uninhabitable and a hellscape. This is all in our 1EC bomb evidence. Go back and read it. This was in the 2EC and 1ER and dropped by every single negative speech. 2 is societal collapse. People freak out because everyone is dying, so they'll go to war and stop thinking about things like climate change, which will inevitably cause extinction. Also in our bomb evidence, also dropped. You know, it was in the 1AR. Russell clearly said it at the top, and you can't justify without explaining the defense in the context of it. Their Noy and Halstead evidence are about natural pandemics, but our waters evidence specifically talks about why pandemics are key and coming from artificial sources, and only why CRISPR can solve. You also know interconnectivity and globalization make the impact more likely, and the risk of light transmission even higher. Time frame is a terrible metric. 1, unique diseases are coming now. There's waters. 2, probability comes first, so you shouldn't rearrange the ships on the Titanic if you're going to crash anyway. 3, it's a moral hazard to believe in intervening actors that Aiden just in the lames because he hasn't explained the scenario how they're going to solve, and it's the exact logic that keeps putting off climate change. It keeps putting off climate change. They say ORD evidence is better. ORD is not the scenario we're going for. Burnout is irrelevant if we're winning the scenarios above. They said Noy and Halstead about natural pandemics, and the gene therapy definitely solves. They dropped that the plant is able to rapidly scale up innovation because through innovation, and the genome theory is rapidly scaling up because the tech is becoming more safe and predictable, because there are more breakthroughs occurring now, which allows for it to feature. That's what says that these gene therapy cards fails are laughable and should be removed from debate. They read Christian cards in debate. That was a mistake. They don't make predictive or conclusion claims about anything, and they're not about germline either. Go to treaties. This DA makes zero sense. It's about patent protection domestically, which means that the status quo should thumb. Both Vanda and Lumina were huge cases that expanded jurisprudence, gene technology, and patents, and there was no special 301 provision occurred, and it should have thumbed because every single 1C card that says it causes trade wars is from 2019. Vanda and Illumina were from after that, which means that a trade war should already be inevitable. It doesn't matter if a trade war is coming in the status quo because they should have already been triggered by those cases. Even if the U.S. withdraws, it doesn't matter because it disproves the internal link or proves that the status quo is going to overwhelm all the link internal evidence is from 2019. I'll extend the thumpers proper here. There's been massive changes in the status quo. One is Vanda. It was a huge new protection by the Federal Circuit of Patent Rights in the wake of Alice Mayo, ushering in new biopharma protections. That's break. 2 is Illumina. It protected narrow diagnostic tech via patents, opening the door to create interpretations of novelty. That's Lerman. Even if their terminal card is recent, every single card before it is ancient. Their evidence is about breaking harmony is from 1992 and assumes literally zero of the patent protections after that. Their true evidence that claims that escalation is from 2019. If their scenario were true, we would have at least seen some trade war from the cases our evidence is describing. And counterplan solved is non-responsive. The 1R explicitly conceded thumpers, and the 1ER exploited that strategic mistakes. The counterplans are relevant to the thumpers. This disproves the thesis of the link, but not the uniqueness for the scenarios. It means their McDermott and show evidence is wrong because protections have happened where trade wars have not. And they say Turn's case with the link Turn 4 outweighs the plan aligned with TRIPS standards, which means that the U.S. is adhering to domestic international norms under TRIPS. This is the Ordor Public card. It was clearly in the 2AC. The Aiden needs to flow because it's the Matthews 22 evidence I read, and it says that the plan aligns it, and they conceded that signaling happens, and that's a certainty because they didn't answer that warrant in the block. You should strike off the new 2 and R answers because it skews the debate towards the negative and causes late-breaking debates. And and only our evidence says that it aligns it to the TRIPS standards, which means that the U.S. doesn't look like a protectionist thing of power, which means that it's not as big of a special 301 violation if there is any. And then the Illumina and Vanda cases, which should solve permutation, the plan, and except all other instances should resolve any residual offense. We might not be able to solve all of it, but the link turn is a net benefit to the permutation. That the exception stuff is a non-starter because the counterplan bans all strengthening all IP rights, but the permutation bans strengthening all IP rights except for in germline patents, which means that it should be able to solve, and it's not an exception. The exception is not an intrinsic portion; it's just a minus part of the counterplan. Problem is, they conceded a case scenario that's huge with an internal link that doesn't make any sense, which means that there's only a risk of our offense.
I've got you one. Oh, it's a mic. Oh yeah, you can stop.
Yeah.